stop that. Hey, we are back again. The Safety of the Sportswriter show with Knoxville, Nate, and Big Joe. Back to you, talk to you about the world of sports, NFL football. We got the playoffs coming up this weekend. We'll talk a little bit about the national championship game. Break that down. I know Nate did that on Sunday. And the big thing is a lot of coaches bit the dust this week on Black Monday. Nate, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. We actually didn't break down the national championship game because it was on Monday.
Oh, that's right.
But we did preview it. We had a great show. Unbelievable guest, Travis Stevens, the all-time leading rusher for a single season in Tennessee sports history. Great guy, great football player. Played in the NFL for a while for the Buccaneers, the Texans, and also played in NFL Europe. And it was great catching up with him, man. He's a legend around here. Let's just say Knoxville, he doesn't buy many drinks. They're all free. He's the last guy that actually beat Florida and kicked their ass, ran for over 200 yards on him, and he's a legend, dude. It was great to catch up with him.
Something that Peyton can never do when he was there. So we'll hit a lot on that too. But let's start out with the coaching, and I got to start out with, I understand they are the bosses. You can't get rid of the bosses, but really the guys who are responsible for most of these messes that are going on in the NFL right now can trace right to the top. This fish stinks from the nose, the head down, whatever you want to call about it. I'm a Giant fan. Wellington Mara, their legendary owner who passed away in 2005, the last thing he did was hire Tom Coughlin, and that's the last good thing probably the Giants have ever done. His son has, besides constructing that monstrosity in the Meadowlands he put up, which we didn't need, and shutting down all the real fans, but to put in his executive boxes and make this mess out there and chasing all the real fans away, and he wonders why there's nobody in the stands. He's now had a litany of bad coaching hires, a couple of bad GM hires, a couple of bad drafts, and he can keep firing people until he starts looking in the mirror and realizing that he's the idiot. He's the one who went out and thought, that the Gettleman was the answer. He's the one that said Jerry Reese could lead the team. He's the one who brought in the coaches, Shermer, Judge. He's the one who's making all these decisions. Then later he's sitting there and saying these guys are responsible. No, John Mara, it is you. Just like the guy in Texas who fired David Culley today and let Deshaun Watson sit on a bench all year long, paying him how many millions of dollars, doing nothing about that? $18 million, never using him. I mean, we got a lot to get into, but let's face facts. The guys that were fired this week, for the most part, the ownership been fired along with him.
Oh, I agree. And the one I have the biggest problem with is David Culley. I mean, honestly, he did a pretty damn good job. I mean, the guy had handcuffs and leg cuffs on the sidelines. They have a top 5 player in the league who refuses to play, but instead of trading him and getting what they can for him, they leave him on the sidelines, don't make him play, don't trade him away, and then halfway through the season, they start yard selling people. So if anybody should be fired, it's CEO and chairman Cal McNair. That franchise has been a disaster since he took over. The general manager, Nick Caserio, is an idiot, has done nothing that's helped that team so far. And to be honest, the fact that they won 4 games and were in as many games as they were, I think is a testament to a good job that David Culley did. I think he did a really good job considering what he had. They had nobody good on that team, and the fact they put up a fight like they did each week, and beat the Titans like they did by 20 points, and really fought hard in those games. I think he deserved at least another year. The Giants, I kind of understood the firing just because of all the weird stuff that Judge did the last few weeks. I mean, the quarterback sneak on 3rd down, 19, and doing it on 2nd down, and the tirade at the press conference, and I think there was a lot of factors that kind of led into the Judge firing. So that one didn't bother me as much, but the Texans moving on from their coach after a year without even giving him a chance, I think is ridiculous.
Well, I mean, and I think you were one of the first ones to point it out. I mean, the Giants were ridiculous coming into this year. And this is why I defend Joe Judge a little bit. I'm not saying he deserved another year. He hadn't shown enough. I told you mid-season I was starting to lose faith in him because he wouldn't recognize the fact that he was up against the wall. You might as well go on fourth down. You might as well throw balls to the wall and see what you can recover because you know what? You're losing by double digit anyways. Who cares if you lose by 50 at this point? Because the fact of the matter is your team is not competitive. But on the flip side of that coin, Mike Glennon and Jake Fromm as your backup quarterbacks, and you have a quarterback, as you said, coming into this season that has yet to get through a season without missing 3 games. He missed 7 games this year. I mean, I think the frustration of Joe Judge, I think I would feel the same way at some point, and I would erupt for an 11-minute tirade going, what the hell do you want me to do? I got Saquon Barkley, who still isn't ready to play, who's trying his best. He's out there. I'll give him that. I got a defense that's playing well, but I got nothing on offense. I have nothing on offense. We might as well just punt immediately when we get the ball because we got nothing to throw at these guys. And if he walked in there and said he wanted to be a part of the search for GM, and that's what finally got him fired and finally pushed the wrong button, I would have been the same way.
Yeah.
I want a guy who's going to pick the type of players I want. And, like I said, this falls at John Mara and Steve Tish's feet. Since they've taken over this franchise, all it's been is on a slippery slope. And Steve Tisch should go back out to Hollywood, keep making movies like Forrest Gump, stay out of the football, show up at the Super Bowl, just shut the hell up. And John Mara, you may look like your father, but you're nothing like your father. Go into the law, find somebody who can run this franchise and stay the hell away. Just stay the hell away because you're both idiots.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see who they hire as the GM. They should have fired Gettleman a long time ago if they knew they were going to. So I don't understand why they made it kind of ceremoniously, like kind of letting him retire and waiting up until now. I mean, why not fire him 3-4 weeks ago and get the search going so you can get the GM in place who can then help you, with the coaching search because they knew they were going to fire Judge too.
I, as a Giant fan, I want them to take a good hard look at two teams and see what they can get from. I don't want the hot GM. I want a GM from an established program. What I want from the Giants is I want them to turn this organization into something like the Pittsburgh Steelers, who have continuity. It's not up and down. They always get good drafts. They've kept 3 coaches in 40 years. They may not always win in the playoffs, but they're always competitive. The Steelers, the Rooneys and the Maras have intermingled and married and everything else. Why don't you take a page from them and ask them for who in their organization can come and straighten this place out? Because the fact of the matter is, they need, in my estimation, we can't go through this again in 2 years because we can't fire the Maras and we can't make them sell.
No, you certainly can't, although that would be nice if you could do that. And the question is, too, everybody wants to go out and hire some new, young, up-and-coming guy. And as me and you know, that doesn't always work out. I've seen so many instances where you go and get these guys that have never done it before, and they're supposed to learn on the job, and by the time they figure it out, they're fired. So I really think they need to go and get someone that has done this before, who's got a proven track record and has had some semblance of success in this league.
Well, I'll tell you, if I was John Mara, and I'm putting together a search committee right now, I'm trying to get somebody. You have some pretty qualified guys you can draw on. I would dial my phone. I would get Bill Parcells. I would dial my phone. I would get Tom Coughlin. I would dial my phone. I would get Phil Simms. I would dial my phone. I would get Michael Strahan, who are both of them are in broadcasting, and I would say, look, give me a list of you guys who you think are the guys qualified that you see around the league, and then you go through that because these are the guys who have been the most successful Giants of all times, and could give you at least a clue as to who to get. Don't listen to, Skip Bayless. Don't listen to these idiots on sports talk radio on FAN and ESPN. Go get some guys who actually are experts in the field, because obviously these two are not experts in the field. So that's what they need. And I'll tell you, whoever you bring in here, this team is a mess. This team is a mess. You have a quarterback with a neck injury that you don't know how bad this is. He might be done. I think Saquon Barkley will be better next year, but how much is that going to mean with the fact that you don't have a quarterback and you have questions all over with the offensive line is a mess. This is not a real attractive job outside of the fact that if you come in here and could turn this around, the Giants, you'd be a hero for the rest of your life. And being a hero in New York is not a bad thing to be. But, I mean, of all the teams right now out there, and we'll start that. Let's take a look at the teams that need coaches and who are the best places to be. We got to put the Texans in today, but there's a list, and the Giants were ranked as 8th, which I agree with. Let's start with who's rated as the number one place to be. We'll break down why that coach failed and what we like about this or don't like about it. And we'll start out with the Denver Broncos. You and I, neither of us like Vic Fangio.
No, I thought he was a horrible coach.
But it's rated as the number one job. Now, I don't know if I agree with that. I'm going to let you break down the Broncos. You're better at this than I am. What do you think about the Broncos team as it stands? And is it a great place for a coach to go?
I would say kind of. I don't know about number one, because number one, you want to have a quarterback, and they have no quarterbacks. Teddy Bridgewater, Drew Lock. I mean, neither one of those guys is the answer. Do I think they both did a horrible job this year? No. I think Teddy, when healthy, played okay, and actually Drew Lock, played decently. A last game there, he played all right. But to be honest, I worry about the offensive side of the ball there for the Broncos. I mean, what are they doing at quarterback? Are they going to try and bring in a veteran? Are they going to try and draft somebody? I just don't know if I would call that the number one job. Now, at least they do have some talent there. They drafted Surtain last year. They've got Bradley Chubb. They've got some decent players on defense. They've got a decent offensive line. They've got some good running backs. There's something to work with there. So I would put them in my top 3. I don't know about number 1, but I would definitely put the Broncos in my top 3. And I got my boy Andy Bradford. He is a huge Denver Broncos fan. I'd love to hear his take on who he thinks is going to be the quarterback next year, who he thinks is going to be the coach. Because as a Broncos fan, I'd love to hear what they're thinking. But they got to get the quarterback situation handled. I liked the Javonte pick, as Bradford mentioned last year. I think that was a good move to pair him with their other running back. I mean, they got 2 good running backs, Melvin Gordon and Javonte. Both played well and ran the ball well at times. In fact, they should have won that game this weekend. I mean, if they hadn't have fumbled and given up the longest scoop and score of the season, they would have won.
I totally agree with you. I mean, I think getting a quarterback is number one. I think they've had, if Elway is still in the search committee or as any kind of a voice in that franchise, I know that they're looking to get probably a veteran. A home run would be Aaron Rodgers, but who knows? The coaches they're talking about in the article I read is, of course, Bieniemy. But I mean, I don't know. Bieniemy, I don't know. What's the shelf life on Bieniemy? They've been talking about him for it seems like since George Halas retired from the Bears, they've been talking about him. And they're talking about Nathaniel Hackett, who's getting a lot of play as the offensive coordinator with Green Bay. But I mean, that's another dangerous guy, because how much does he really have? I mean, Aaron Rodgers kind of calls the play once the game is on, and LaFleur calls the plays. I mean, how much does he really do? outside of make sure the right footballs are in. I don't know. I don't know either one of those if that's a good pick.
Yeah, the other thing that concerns me a little bit and would concern me if I was looking at potentially going to be the head coach of the Broncos is obviously the ownership situation. This team is up for sale. The sale has been approved. So you don't know who your boss is going to be. You don't know who's going to be the owner. And as we've seen, looking at the NFL the past few years, like the Jaguar situation with Mr. Khan over there, the owner it makes a big deal, in my opinion, who the owner is. I mean, the being a winning organization starts at the top and goes down. So if you get some Nimrod up there buying the team who has no clue how to run a football organization, it could be a bad situation for a coach.
Well, I think I covered my feelings about owners a few minutes ago, so we'll keep going with that.
I'm piggybacking off of that.
But yeah, I mean, I think it's all the thing you got a great fan base, great part of the country to live in, got a lot of legacy there, and it is attractive. Next one they said number 2 is the Raiders. I think I don't know if the Raiders I'd put them up number 2. This interim coach did a really good job, I thought, and we were just talking how he deserves a chance to stick it on. They seem to not be too excited about Derek Carr. There's always the rumors about bringing in somebody to replace Derek Carr. I don't know if I was a coach, if I wanted to go to the Raiders, another team that always seems to be looking for the next best thing on the menu. What do you think?
Well, honestly, I would have them in my top 3 also, just because this is a team that was 10-7 this year, and to finish 10-7 with all that went on. I mean, the John Gruden situation, the Henry Ruggs, the Damon Arnett. I mean, there was a lot of turmoil that went on this year in the Raiders organization. So the fact that Rich Versace was able to keep going and keep this thing happening, and get them to the playoffs, I think he, in my opinion, has earned the right to continue to coach. And whether or not they will retain him, I don't know. But I think he's definitely earned the job. If they do end up firing him and, begin the search, first off, they're going to be behind the 8 ball because they're going to be one of the few teams that's actually in the playoffs that's looking for a coach. So everybody else will probably already made their hire. And, that could set them back.
And number 3 on the list, and I kind of agree with this, I think it was number 1, is Minnesota. I think you've got more settled things in Minnesota, more chance to walk in there tomorrow and win. And with the fact of the matter is, who knows what Aaron Rodgers is going to do at the end of the year, especially if Green Bay was to win a Super Bowl. Who knows? You might say goodbye, see a hello Jeopardy. Who knows? So what do you think about the Minnesota job?
Yeah, I think the Minnesota job is really attractive. I mean, let's be honest. They've underachieved the last few years. That's why, that's why he's gone. That's why Mike Zimmer was fired, because they were expected to, be in the Super Bowl. They were expected to contend for the Super Bowl after they made the championship game. Everybody was like, we're a quarterback away. They got rid of their quarterback. They picked up Kirk Cousins, and it's kind of been, it's kind of been a failure ever since then. And, they're still a decent football team. They still are very competitive. And I think if you get the right guy in here, I think you could, win very quickly. This is not a 2 or 3 year rebuild. This is a team that's ready to win now. They're getting a little bit old at some spots. Anthony Barr, Eric Kendricks are both, kind of long in the tooth at linebacker. They need to get some edge rushers because Everson Griffin is old. And also, Danielle Hunter has been hurt 2 years in a row. So there's some spots they need to do. This draft is going to be very important, but I love the foundation. Justin Jefferson is one of the best young wide receivers in the league. The offensive line's actually played pretty well. You've got Dalvin Cook. They've got Harrison Smith locked up. These young corners played fairly well. Some of the interior defensive linemen played fairly well. So I think this is definitely probably, if I was a coach and I was looking for one of these jobs, it would be my number 1 spot because they know how to win and they've got some players in place. You just need a good coach. And what I'm hoping is that they bring somebody in with some damn experience, because this, my theory on the first year head coaches. There's so many guys out there right now that have no job,
right,
and that haven't had a job. We talked at length about Jim Caldwell. I mean,
right.
This would be a perfect spot. Hell, if you can win in Detroit, you could certainly win in Minnesota. But, Jim Caldwell's been a name that I've heard thrown around. I heard an interview today with Marvin Lewis, who said he would love to get back into coaching. Hell, he took he took the damn Bengals to the playoffs, 8 times in 16 years, or 7 times in 15 years, whatever it was. I mean, that's pretty impressive. And I think Marvin deserves another shot, maybe somewhere that actually has somebody not named Mike Brown in ownership.
Well, the other guy that, the other guys that are on this list, they're talking about Brian Daboll, who's on everybody's list with the Bills. Brian Flores, who, I don't know how fast Brian Flores is going to get scooped up. Now the Dolphins are leaking out crap to cover their butts, I think. Doug Peterson, who's on everybody's list, and Kellen Moore of the Cowboys. I don't know, but I would say that Daboll and however you pronounce his name, and Peterson, and like you said, Caldwell, and if Marvin Lewis, that would be a top 4 right there, because you don't want to turn. That's like, you give the keys. It's like you got a team that's ready to win now. You don't want a rookie coach walking in there, because first of all, the team's not going to respect them, and secondly, you don't want them making rookie mistakes. So yeah, I agree with you.
And you know what? Another guy that honestly I would be interested in, and I would definitely be interested in this guy over Kellen Moore and some of these other guys, is Dan Quinn. I mean, He did a pretty damn good job in Atlanta and took them to the Super Bowl. And a lot of the things that, led to his demise, I think some of them were out of his control. And I'm not saying that he was completely, he was completely innocent in the Falcons' struggles. I mean, some of it was his fault, but, a lot of times you learn on the job. And I think he learned from some of his mistakes. Look what he's done with that Dallas defense. I mean, give me a break, dude. They were atrocious last year and, missed the playoffs. Even though they had a really good offense, they struggled so bad. They couldn't even come close to winning games. And he's completely turned that defense around. What he's done with the first year player, Micah Parsons, is unbelievable. And I think Dan Quinn deserves another shot to be a head coach in this league.
He's another good name. He's another good name for that place. The next one on the list, they're saying, is the Jacksonville Jaguars. You got Trevor Lawrence, who grew this year. Towards the end of the year, he's playing better. He's not perfect. He's got a long way to go. You need somebody who can step in there. But that's another team that's been built badly. There's not a lot around him to go with. You're going to have a good draft. You're going to have to attract some free agents. I don't know their cap situation. But you need to get somebody in there who's not going to waste his talent. You don't want to see this guy be getting beat up and the waste of that kind of talent there. I know Byron Leftwich is the name that everybody's talking about, and I am not a Leftwich believer. When you got Bruce Arians looking over your shoulder and you're telling Tom Brady what to do, I don't know how good you are. I really don't. I'm sorry. He might be a genius. Maybe I'm underselling him, but I think Byron Leftwich has to go somewhere and show me something more when he doesn't have a Hall of Fame quarterback and Bruce Arians to keep him from making mistakes. He's got a great safety net right there.
Yeah, I honestly think this is the worst job, to be honest with you. I just have no faith in this organization. I think this owner is an idiot. Just, speaking bluntly, I don't pull any punches here. I just think this organization is run horribly. The one time they've been successful in the past decade was 2016. And after the year was over, those guys couldn't get out of town fast enough. Jalen Ramsey, Yannick Ngakoue, AJ Bouye, the list goes on. And since then, it's just been a dumpster fire. And, there's a new coach every single year. They blame the coach every year. It's always the coach's fault. Well, you know what? It's not the coach's fault, because there's a different coach every single year. And every single year, there's the same result. I like Trevor Lawrence. Obviously, he's a very talented young man. They've got Travis Etienne, who didn't even play this year and, will come back and help the team next year. They've got a ton of cap space, probably the most, I think, of any team in the league. But their roster's garbage. I mean, who the hell are you going to, build? I mean, what is there to build on? I mean, you've got Trevor Lawrence, yes. And what? What else? Tell me another player on that roster that excites you, because there's no one else that excites me. And they need receivers. They need linemen. They need defensive help. I do, as Andy Bradford say, I like Leftwich. I think he's a decent offensive coordinator. Whether or not he'd be a great head coach, I have no idea. That's another guy that would be, you'd be rolling the dice on. I think in this particular situation, they need a proven guy that's coached in the NFL before to come in. And I think this is the place where they need to hire the former Eagles coach. I just think this is a perfect spot for him if they can get him to come there. I think it would be in their best interest to hire Doug Peterson.
I hate to float this out there, but bottom line, because of who who the owner is, do they have to move the franchise? Is it just a town that just can't support the franchise? They have to find a place away from Jacksonville where they can build a fan base. I mean, it seems to me they're surrounded by Atlanta, Tampa Bay, and the Dolphins, and they can't get their identity down there. From what I understand, their stadium lacks anything. I mean, and it's just not ever going to grow a team and a fan base down there. Do they have to move that out of Jacksonville?
I think so. I mean, you can't. This is why lots of guys don't want to go play there. This is why it's not a free agent destination. Well, there's not a ton of fans there, and they have to play at least one of their home games a year over in London. So it's like, who the hell wants to play their home game in London, and who wants to play in an empty stadium? So I think that this, they probably will eventually have to move out of there. But, as I said, the problems in Jacksonville start at the top. And until the owner hires someone who knows what the hell they're doing. I mean, he fires Urban Meyer, but he keeps Trent Baalke, who, has no clue what he's doing. In fact, I think I saw something the other day that the last 5 coaches that Trent Baalke has been the GM for have all gotten fired after 1 year. So who the hell wants to come in and be the head coach under Baalke and get fired after a year? Because everyone else, that's what happens. So I don't know. I think there's a lot of problems in Jacksonville, and I think it starts at the top. And I think the only way that this franchise gets turned around is A, if they move and get another spot, or B, this guy sells the team and cuts his losses.
Unless they, and I tell you, unless they get a, I don't know. It makes no sense there. But I mean, like you said, I don't see anything with Jacksonville. Next one up is Miami. I was shocked when Brian Flores get let go. I mean, the way they finished this season, especially beating up the Patriots. For years, no one could beat the Patriots once in a year. Now you get the Dolphins who've beaten them twice, and they seem to beat it under Flores, beat them at least once a year. You got a guy who finally had become the kryptonite for Super Bill Belichick, and you chase him out of town. Tua played better this year. You see a little bit of advancement with him, but as we talked about all year long, no running game, very limited, help on the outside of Gesicki as a wide receiver. Not a lot of talent. I mean, and they almost made the playoffs, and you fire the coach. I don't know. You tell me what's wrong with Miami, and who makes sense going there.
Well, I can tell you this. Flores made sense there. I can't believe they fired him. I mean, they had a rough start. Let's be honest. I mean, things were going bad. They lost 7 games in a row. If anyone was going to get fired, I figured it might happen after they lost 7 games in a row, but they didn't fire him. They let him stay on as the coach. He comes around and then wins 7 games in a row.
Right.
And you're like, okay, well, they've figured it out. Tua's playing better. That defense is really balling out. They've got something going here. Maybe they don't make the playoffs, but, I really see Flores, coming into his own as a coach, and then they fire him as soon as the season's over. So, I do like this spot. I'm not in love with the ownership here either, but I do like the football team. As you mentioned, I agree they need help at running back. They've got to get a running back in there. They've got to get some additional wide receivers. The reason Tua struggled at times is the weaponry sucks. He needs a go-to wide receiver. Will Fuller was not the answer. That guy is a really good football player, but he's always injured. So they need somebody that can go out there and be a target for him. Like you mentioned, the tight end Gesicki's a good one. Even Durham Smythe from Notre Dame, the other tight end, has played well at times. So you got one position settled. Go get some running backs, go get some tight ends, and give Tua an opportunity for success. And, this is another spot where I know I just said this, but Doug Peterson would make a whole lot of sense here too, because it's a young quarterback, could be groomed under Doug. I think he would know how to use him. And I think Doug could help him turn this offense around. And, obviously they're doing some good things on defense. If they could get a coach in here that might be a little bit more offensive minded, I think it would help Tua's development.
Well, the thing is, we don't know how good the defense is going to be because that could have been Flores and the way he did it. But the thing is, the other thing about Stephen Ross has been around. I think I read it right. He's been owner of the Dolphins for 18 years and been in the playoffs twice.
Yeah.
And this is a team that, back when I was growing up in the 70s, they were a very good team. The only undefeated team. They won the Super Bowls. Then you had the Dan Marino years. I mean, it's a pity to see where they are right now. It's crazy. And now the next team up is one we talked about all year long, waiting for this to come down, is the Chicago Bears. That had to happen. He was doing an awful job, especially with Justin Fields' development. The McCaskey family has never gotten it right. I mean, maybe the Lovie Smith era, where they got to the playoff, they got to the Super Bowl at least once, covered a little bit of the McCaskey craziness. But since they took over for George Halas dying, I mean, George Halas was the one who brought in Ditka in the 80s, and that was the last time that the Bears were any greatness. So I don't know what you're going to do. Here's another ownership problem, like the Maras. It's a legacy franchise owned by the same people since the 20s, or the same family since the 20s, and they keep doing the wrong things.
Yeah, they do. Just one more statement about the Dolphins. They've got, I was incorrect. Actually, the Jaguars are third. The team with the most cap space effective is the Dolphins. They have effectively about $60 million. So they've got the ability to go out and get some players. And, so do the Jaguars. The Jaguars are up there at number 3. So Jaguars and Dolphins are in great shape cap-wise. And, that would make those two spots attractive for a coach. The Bears, I think the Bears is an attractive job as well, just because of the history of the franchise. The ownership is in a little bit better situation than some of these other NFL teams, in my opinion. And you've got a base to build off of. I mean, there is some talent on this roster. I like the defense. Obviously, Khalil Mack and a lot of the other guys, had some injuries this year. The defense has played well, especially considering who's been hurt. I mean, I've been very impressed with the way they've played, considering Danny Trevathan has been on injured reserve. Tez Tabor has been on injured reserve. As we mentioned, Khalil Mack has been on IR. Keem Hicks has been hurt. So, if they can get those guys back, Roquan Smith is one of the best young linebackers. Robert Quinn set the all-time record for sacks in a season. Jalen Johnson is a really good young corner. I like Eddie Jackson. So I like the defense. I think they need to get some more weapons to help Justin Fields out. Justin Fields at times this year really showed you what you got in him. I mean, I think if he'd been playing since the beginning of the year, I think we would have even seen more. But, man, there were flashes of greatness. Yeah. So, if you can solidify the offensive line played better this year. There were times like that Browns game where they gave up 9 sacks, which was horrible. But that was a little bit more attributed to scheme than just horrible play, in my opinion. So if they can fix, I mean, Jason Peters is not the long-term answer at left tackle. I think he's 57 years old today. So they need to move on from him. Probably Tevin Jenkins is going to get a chance to be the starter there. I like David Montgomery. I like Khalil Herbert. I like Mooney, the young wide receiver, but they need to get a true number one guy in there. Allen Robinson, in my opinion, is not a game breaker. He's a good possession receiver, but he's not a game breaker. They need to get a just take the top off the defense kind of guy for Justin to throw to. And they need to bring someone in who can design an offense that fits Justin Fields' skill set. And if they can do that, I think they can be a good team and be a playoff team next year.
Yeah, I think that's an attractive, like Minnesota. You got a lot of the pieces in place. And also there's that factor of, will Aaron Rodgers be back in Green Bay? Because there's a good chance that Aaron Rodgers won't be, and that'll open up that division like crazy. Like, that'll just top to bottom, that could shake up that division. So that would be an attractive place. Next one, of course, we talked about it, just because it happened just recently, was Houston. And they're ranked as 7th. I think that the Giants and Houston are kind of a tie to me, because both of them are a mess. And both of them have to be brought in with strong, with a coach who's going to be given time, and you're not going to come up with the answers overnight for this. But let's start with Houston. First of all, you got to figure out Deshaun Watson. You can't keep paying the guy $18 million to sit on a bench. You have to, first of all, go to the NFL and say, is he going to be punished? Is he not going to be punished? I got to know, so if I do trade him, I know what I'm getting back, or what I can get for him. So start with that.
Well, and first off, it's not 18 million next year. Next year it balloons up to 35 million fully guaranteed.
Excellent.
And then it goes to 37 million, and and so on and so forth. So that needs to be figured out right now. And you said, as you mentioned, this is a job that's going to take some time. Well, why the hell would you want to go there if you know that it's going to take time? They fired this other guy after a year when they handcuffed his ass with the Watson situation. So yeah, this is not an attractive job to me. Other than the Jaguars, this is the worst roster in the NFL, in my opinion. And there's, at least in Jacksonville, you have Trevor Lawrence. In Houston, you've got nothing, because you don't even know who the quarterback's going to be, and you don't know whether or not he doesn't want to play there, but you don't know if they're going to be even able to trade him. So this is a place where, if I was a guy who is looking to get a job as a NFL head coach, this would be a place that I would avoid.
The thing about it is you almost need a leper. You need a desperate coach who needs another chance to get back into the game. I mean, Culley was a guy that shocked everybody, and at that point, everybody thought Deshaun Watson was going to be there. Well, now Deshaun Watson isn't going to be there, because there's no way. He's already said he's not playing for his team, and you're going to have to make a trade. So the guy who comes to the door knows it's going to be it's an even worse situation than what Culley took over. So you're almost stuck taking somebody who is desperate to get back in the game. Somebody who failed miserably somewhere else, or just wants another chance. Now, I'm not going to throw it out. I'm just going to throw it out there. Since he hasn't been given another chance and he did well in Cincinnati, would Marvin Lewis be the guy, if he was given assurances, that he was going to be given some time to get this together? This could be a place that a Marvin Lewis could go to, I think.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably what's going to happen here. It's going to be somebody that really just wants to get back into the game and really wants to, take a chance and maybe not even have the best situation, but just wants to get back into the league as a head coach. I hope Marvin doesn't take this job, because I want Marvin to be set up for success. I think he's a great man. I think he's an excellent football coach, and I think he deserves to get a job like in Denver, or a job like in Chicago, a place that has some talent on the roster, and this place is just void of talent, in my opinion. And I just, God help whoever gets this job.
Is there any kind of cap space there? I know Deshaun Watson puts a heavy hold on it. Do they have anything going for him there?
The Texans, I think they're about right in the middle. I mean, they're in decent shape. They've got about 20 million in cap space for 2022. Effective cap space, they're right at about $7 million. So, they're right about in the middle, the low end of the middle range. They're in a decent situation because there's a lot of guys that they're probably going to dump anyway. They've already gotten rid of a lot of money that was on the books with Whitney Merciless and Mark Ingram and the other guys, Bradley Roby dudes that they dumped, either before the season or during the season. So they're going to have plenty of room to be able to go out and sign people. But who's going to want to, go there as a free agent if they don't even know, if you say you're a wide receiver and you're looking for a big time free agent contract, who's going to go to Houston when you don't even know who's going to be throwing the ball?
And the worst thing about it is no matter what, you're always going to be the stepbrother to the Dallas Cowboys in the state of Texas. I mean, Dallas is the brand down there, and it's tough to just when you got J.J. Watt and that kind of stardom in Houston, they still couldn't overcome the Dallas specter down the road as far as getting the fans to come to their side. So that's going to be tough. And then the Giants, we talked about it at length to begin, but we'll go back around. I mean, like I said, quarterback question mark. Saquon Barkley and Booker at running back give you a pretty good tandem there, used right. Wide receivers, question mark. Tight end, Ingram, question mark. Offensive line, just hire people off the street, please, at this point, because they can't be any worse than what they got. Defensively, I think they've got a few good players on defense. Some of the guys coming back that were injured. Their defense, I think, is in a good place to at least be a competitive defense. Is that going to mean a lot to them? No, because that's what they've got to get somebody in there that can put more than 14 points a game on the board. My God, I mean, against some of these defenses. I mean, I know they were up against it, but I mean, and we talked at length about Frome and Glennon, but to only be able to produce 14 points a game in the NFL, I mean, that's high school money. That's high school points.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the roster, in my opinion, is a little bit better here than some of the other situations. I like what they've done at defensive line. Leonard Williams, Austin Johnson, Dexter Lawrence, Lorenzo Carter, all these guys played pretty well. Ujulari, I thought.
I love him.
Was a good player. I liked him a lot. They're going to get Jabril Peppers back. They've got Bradbury. They signed Jalen Smith. Hopefully, Blake Martinez will hopefully be back next year.
McKinney looks very good.
Yeah. So I like this defense. It's actually pretty young as far as the defense goes. The offense needs some work. I mean, you're going to have to have Saquon come back and be healthy. I mean, they're counting on him heavily, and Galladay's got to play better. I mean, this guy, he struggled this year. 500 yards from this guy that you're paying $20 million to. That's not good. He also had 0 touchdowns. Think about that for a second. Kenny Galladay, 0 touchdowns.
I agree with you there, but the only thing I will give Galladay just an excuse for is the quarterback play was god awful.
It was, but let's be honest. Even when Daniel Jones was back there and was playing okay, Galladay struggled. Yeah, so yeah. I think they're going to need somebody else in there to help with the wide receiver. I've never really been in love with Shepard or Slayton, and they continue to keep those guys on the roster, and I'm not 100% sure why. Because the production has never really been great with either one of them. So I don't know. There's a lot of work to be done here. And the one thing that I can say is that there's more talent on this roster than there is in Houston or Jacksonville. So at least they got that going for them.
Yeah, Slayton. I thought Slayton's rookie year he showed a lot of promise, but he's never lived up since his rookie year. Shepard always gets injured. He's always going to be, and he's coming off an Achilles, which scares the hell out of me. Achilles is worse than a knee injury. Especially a wide receiver. That's your explosiveness. That's your cutting ability. And you saw even this year with Saquon Barkley with the knee, how long it takes to recover from that. I mean, I think we'll see the real Saquon next year. I think towards the end of the year we started to see him a little bit more. Although the last game it was a mess, but the fact of the matter is, with true quarterback in there, what the Giants have to do, and I'll tell you, I'm so hoping that there's somebody like a Teddy Bridgewater floating around that they can bring in here to be a professional quarterback, back up Daniel Jones or compete with Daniel Jones. When Daniel Jones, hopefully, no one wants to see a guy's injury in somebody's career, especially the way with Daniel Jones, because we'll never know. But I think he was given the keys to this kingdom too fast, and they needed to bring in somebody to push him a long time ago. And they definitely need a safety net and someone to push him and give him a reason to do whatever you got to do to fight for his position, because you can't just give it back to him. He hasn't shown enough to get a free ride.
No, I agree. I mean, he struggled to stay healthy, and we talked about it nauseum the last few weeks. This neck injury really, really concerns me, and I think you've got to bring somebody in that can right the ship for the first 6, 7, maybe 8 weeks of the season if he's not ready to go, and B, even if he is ready to go, I want somebody to not just push him, but potentially compete for the job.
Definitely. He got the free ride, and he's just the first thing is he doesn't have the availability of Eli Manning, and he just hasn't shown the heart of it yet. So unfortunately for Daniel Jones, he seems like a nice guy. He checked all the boxes for me, not coming from the biggest university. Seemed to have a lot of talent, but doesn't mean it means he's got to put it together over anything else. So there's going to be a lot of things going on. The other thing, like we talked about before coming here, I don't know if we talked about it on the air. You can't just sit here and spend months trying to make this happen. These jobs are going to start falling fast, and because these teams have to start getting ready for the draft. And on top of that, is you got to put your staffs together. And you don't want to be the last guy picking for assistant coaches in this league. They're very important. They never get enough credit. But the position coaches can mean the difference between you having a good team and a bad team. So if you're going to sit on your hands and wait around and do a lot of interviews while all these places are picking their coaches, you're not going to have assistant coaches.
Yeah, I mean, you need to get the general manager situation solidified first. You need to get that in the door so that you have that ready to go for the draft and the combine and the Senior Bowl. I mean, there's a lot of things. The NFL doesn't slow down after the Super Bowl. I mean, it's a whirlwind. As soon as the Super Bowl is over, the Senior Bowl is right after that. The combine is right after that. You've got pro days going on in between those events every single day all over the country at different schools where you've got to have your scouts ready to go. A lot of GMs attend these ones that are going to be, high profile guys. A lot of GMs go to those as well. And, this draft to me, and we'll talk about the players and the, we love to break down the draft on this show, and we're going to do it. But I got to be honest, this is one of the most talent depleted drafts I've seen in a long time. I mean, there's some guys that you'll be able to pick up and put on your roster and help your team for sure. But finding out and sifting through the mess to figure out who is an NFL player and who isn't is going to be very, very difficult in this year, in my opinion, because there's just not these guys that stand out and say, look at me, I'm a sure thing. I mean, I just don't see that. You're going to have to really, really have someone who knows what the hell they're doing.
Yep. And that's an facts. The Giants haven't shown a propensity for that over the last decade. So
no, I haven't liked their draft picks. And, let's be honest, there's really no quarterback in this draft at all that excites me. I mean, which quarterback do you like? I mean, do you like Howell? Do you like Pickett? out of
No,
Pittsburgh? I mean,
no, no. I mean,
no and no.
no and no. I mean, I Sam Howell, I thought took a step back this year. If he had extra eligibility, if I was him, I'd come back. I would do another year. I don't think he's ready. I think he's going. Sam Howell right now looks like a Jake Fromm to me. He can win some game, but he's not going to be the kind of guy that could put a college team on his back and lead it anywhere. So what's he going to do in the pros? Kenny Pickett is intriguing at points. I don't like the fact he sat out that bowl game. I don't like, I don't think he did enough to sit out a bowl game. I mean, this is a guy who played well, but he played at Pittsburgh. I mean, it's the ACC. I mean, I don't know.
I'm with you. I'm with you, honestly. That really bothered me that he didn't play in the bowl game and he chose to sit out. That bothered me because you play quarterback, and unless your offensive line, you just don't trust them. Why would you not play? And then B, he goes to the damn bowl game and sits up in the press box and wears a headset like he's a coach or something. Yeah. And that bothered me. And it's like, dude, go down there and win the game for your team and improve your draft stock. If he was able to lead them to a victory, which if they had a quarterback, they could have won that game very easily.
Yeah.
They were playing their third stringer who had never taken a snap in a game before, and that was the only reason they lost. If he'd have played that game and led them to a victory and won them the ACC title and done all that, I would have thought way more highly of him than I do now. And I'm just not really excited about him after that. He's a good quarterback. He may be the most polished one in this class, which is really scary. But he just doesn't blow me away.
Exactly. He may be the most polished, which doesn't say much for the class of quarterbacks.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, if you look at the rest of the guys, that's, then he looks better.
Yeah, that was like being the best home run hitter on my block growing up. Big deal.
Yeah, it's like the girls that get all the ugly girls to hang out with to make themselves look prettier. That's basically what Pickett's done by staying in school and going in this draft. He's not very attractive woman that looks way cuter with the chicks that he's with.
That's for sure. Okay, let's get into the playoffs. We got to get into the playoffs now. We'll start in the AFC. Right now it's funny. I was looking at the ratings for the worst quarterback in the playoffs, and Ben Roethlisberger is rated as the worst quarterback in the playoffs, and they're going to Kansas City. I wouldn't be shocked if Pittsburgh pulled something here because Tomlin is a great coach. They got some defense there. But Kansas City seemed to be getting better as the season went on. I'm not sure about the last 2 weeks how they looked, but up until the last 2 weeks, I thought they were getting into shape to make another run. It's going to be a tall tale, but do you think Pittsburgh can go into Kansas City and do something?
I don't know. I mean, I was really liking the Chiefs, like you said, until the last 2 weeks. I mean, they beat the crap out of Pittsburgh in Arrowhead, 3 weeks ago, 36-10. It was not even that close. So I was feeling really strong about them after they had won all those games in a row. Would they win eight or nine in a row? And I think they won 9 in a row, and I was feeling really good about them. And then the Bengals game came about, and they just could not stop Joe Burrow to save their lives. And as we talked about earlier on this show, last week, they could have easily lost that game to the Broncos if that scoop and score doesn't happen. The Broncos were they were already leading the game by 1, and they were going in to score again. So, I know they won, but that game didn't really feel like a victory to me. And I don't know if you've heard the media all week with the sound bites coming out of Pittsburgh, but basically I interviewed Big Ben today, and he's like, out of the 14 teams, we're probably ranked 14.
Oh, yeah.
We shouldn't be here. I should be retired. We don't really have a chance. So we're just going to go out there and see what happens. And, that's a good mentality to have. I mean, they're double-digit underdogs. I think they're 12.5 points underdogs. And if this defense can come out and make something happen, I feel like the offense could potentially score enough to win the game. And I know that's crazy considering they're 12.5-point dogs. But, if TJ Watt can get in there and, it's easier said than done. I mean, Patrick Mahomes is not an easy guy to sack. But if TJ Watt can get in the backfield and get after it, I think they got a chance.
Especially if they can pull something out of the Tampa Bay playbook from last Super Bowl, could make a difference. Before we get to the Patriots Bills, let's do Cincinnati against the Raiders. I mean, the Raiders right now are on an emotional high coming in. I hate to use a feel good story, but for Carr, for the coach, for the rest of the team, what they've had to go through just to get to the playoffs. To beat San Diego to get in. I don't want to call them a good story for sure because Ruggs tragedy and the Gruden debacle would not make this a romantic story. But for the guys that are still standing in Vegas, I don't know. It's Cincinnati's first time around. Joe Burrow could look like a rookie, or he could be the guy that takes the step forward and says, "I'm here to stay."
Yeah, this is one of the most intriguing games of the weekend, in my opinion, because you've got the Raiders coming off a short week. I mean, that was a real street fight of a game. I mean, it was going back and forth and back and forth. The Raiders were up by 2 scores or more. They let the Chargers come back and tie the game, and then they were able to win by field goal in overtime, but by no means was I blown away by the Raiders' performance in that game. So coming on a short week and having to play the first game on Saturday at 4:30, I think is a little bit of a bad thing for the Raiders because they might be a little bit tired, and I just don't know what they might have left in the tank. And based on what Joe Burrow's been doing lately, I think he's going to be able to pick that defense apart a little bit.
Now, the next one, I tell you, my heart, I'm going to be honest with you, I'd love to see the Patriots win this game, and I'll tell you a couple of reasons. The biggest reason is to shut Nick right up. I hate this guy, the way he says Mac Jones is a terrible quarterback, and Belichick doesn't trust him. He's the idiot on NFL Network who was the dumbest person ever come out of Syracuse University. How he ever graduated, I'll never know, but he's a jackass, and I would love to prove him wrong, but I think this is a Buffalo win. I just in my heart and in my emotions, I would like to see New England win this game, but I just think it's too much to ask of Mac Jones in his first year. I think Buffalo's kind of righted their ship, and I think Buffalo will win this game.
I'm with you. I want the Patriots to win, but I feel like the Bills are playing their best football right now. They've finally gotten a running game going the last few weeks. They've got Devin Singletary's been playing pretty well. They've rattled off 1, 2, 3, 4 wins in a row, including a victory over the Patriots, and they're at home, which they love to play at home. And I feel like they still are going to be using that game in the snow where they lost to the Patriots at home, and they're going to use that as motivation. It's supposed to be 4 degrees. I'm feeling like the Bills are going to have enough to get by the Patriots in this one.
All right, we'll switch over to the NFC now, and this is going to be one of the weirdest games for me of all times because I have to root for Philadelphia, and I'll tell you why. Because I think Bruce Arians went over the line this week saying Tom Brady should be the MVP over everybody. First of all, Tom Brady does not need any more people shining, spotlights up his butt or sunlight up his butt. Okay. Could he become the MVP? I don't know. Yes, he could, but he's won MVPs before. He's not supposed to be about that, is he? He's supposed to be about Tommy Winner. And that just, pissed me off to no end. And the fact of the matter is that for me to root for Philadelphia Eagles is like beyond me. That I'm rooting for the Philadelphia Eagles. And I would just love to see the Buccaneers get upset this weekend in the first game. And especially because we all know how hard it is to repeat to begin with. but it seems like everything is being rolled out on a red carpet. You and I were talking during the Alabama Georgia game, how it seems that everybody conspires to help Saban. Well, everybody conspires to help Brady, and I just would love to see Philadelphia pull an upset. What do you think about this game, and what about their chances for an upset?
Yeah, their chances are slim to none. You know me, I love Jalen Hurts. He's one of my favorite players in the league right now. I love watching him throw it. I love watching him run it. What he's done with this team, when they were 2-5 and their fans were ready to, throw this guy off the boat and move on. I love what he's done since then. He's just taken the team on his back and driven them basically to the playoffs. And I love him for that. But the NFL is not going to let Tom Brady lose in the first round. It's just, I don't give a shit if the Eagles are up by 15, in the fourth quarter. Something will happen. Every call will go Tommy 12's way.
Put more time on the clock.
They will extend the game to make sure that Tommy does not lose in the first round. There's no way that the NFL, even if the Eagles are the better team this day, the NFL will not let the Buccaneers lose.
No, I hope you're wrong there, guy. Oh God, I don't want to hear. I'm so Tommied out. It's just incredible.
Well, you know me, I don't even like Aaron Rodgers, but Aaron Rodgers is the MVP of this league.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, but it's ridiculous the season that guy's put together.
Next, we'll go down to Dallas, and now I'm going to be more normal. A couple of reasons, we've spoken at length. I like Jimmy G, and that was a great game he played to get them into the playoffs, especially the ending, that throw to Samuels, that clutch throw with a broken thumb. The kid is gutting it out. He admitted this week, and it was a nice admission. I don't know if you saw that. He kind of admitted that it's been in the back of his mind all year, and maybe it's affected his play. The fact that he knows that Trey Lance is sitting there and is supposed to be replacing him, and it's got to get to you. And he said I love the fact he came out and admitted it, and maybe that's why we've seen some up and down weeks from this kid. I think he's one of the feel-good stories of the playoffs. It would be nice to see him win this game, especially just to shut up the San Francisco people who don't appreciate him. And number two, to see Dallas cry, it was good for me.
You know what? I could see them winning this game. I mean, think about it. Jimmy Garoppolo has completed almost 70% of his passes, 68.3% completion percentage. He's thrown for almost 4,000 yards, only played 15 games. He's got 20 touchdowns. I just think he's played very well considering he's not supposed to be there. They wanted Trey Lance to be the starter. They drafted him third overall for a reason. They wanted this guy to take the job, and he's just never been able to do it. And I think Jimmy G is a great quarterback. And the people that think he sucks just really, really confuse me because when I watch him play, when he's healthy and when he's got his weapons around him, he manages the game. I mean, he's not the greatest quarterback in the world, but he can win you football games, and he's a winner. So I think they've got a really good shot at winning this game. Deebo Samuel has not only got 1,400 yards receiving, he's also the second leading rusher on this team, which is amazing considering how many great running backs they have. So I love Deebo Samuel. It's gonna take a big game out of him for them to win, but I definitely like the San Francisco's chances.
And getting back to Jimmy G for 1 second, which kind of the real thing that makes you scratch your head when you think about the Trey Lance situation with Jimmy G is that Jimmy G plays the type of game you would think that Shanahan wants: play action, run, manage the game, hand the ball off. He doesn't have to throw the ball downfield. Isn't an RPO guy. I mean, I don't look at Shanahan as a guy who likes to run a lot of RPOs. So it kind of is counterintuitive when you think of the fact that he's already got a quarterback there who plays the style he likes to play.
Yeah, I'm still scratching my head as to the move to trade up to the third spot. I thought, if they do trade up to the third spot, maybe they take Justin Fields and
Mac Jones,
or Mac Jones, either one, and prepare for the future. But no, they move up and take the guy from North Dakota who is not ready to play. So this is kind of like the Packers from a few years ago when they drafted Jordan Love. Well, here they are in the playoffs and could really use another talented player to help them out. And they've got the third pick in the draft standing on the sidelines holding a clipboard. So yeah, nice move there,
John Lynch.
Management and John Lynch.
All right, and then we'll go out to this is the game that I think is going to be the most interesting of the weekend. We've got Arizona, who we've talked about. I mean, they got out of the box like Secretariat and came in like a jackass. You've got an exciting young quarterback who seems to hit the wall late in the season. And you've got Cliff Kingsbury, who you and I both don't know how good he is. But they've got a lot of talent on the team. And you have the Rams, who put the chips to the center of the table. They went out and got the quarterback they've always wanted. They went out and got Von Miller. They've got OBJ. They brought in as much talent. They are the Dodgers of football. Dodgers, Yankees, whatever you want to call it. Those teams that go out and buy all the talent they can. And if they lose, if they fall on their face, they're going to look like fools. And they're playing one of their big division rivals early in the playoffs. And Stafford, let's face facts, the Stafford of the first 7 games and the Stafford of the last 10 games, he does throw a lot of interceptions.
Yeah, he's definitely struggled at times, and he's definitely made some mistakes that he shouldn't be making, given the fact that he's a vested veteran in this league. That being said, I still leaning towards the Rams in this one, and I'd really be leaning towards the Rams if they didn't have such problems in the secondary. I don't know if you saw, but they signed Eric Weddle yesterday.
No, I didn't see that.
Yeah, he hasn't played since 2019. But they've already got Robert Rochelle out in the injured reserve, Jordan Fuller, their quarterback of their defensive backfield, has to have surgery on his foot. He's out for the playoffs. Tyler Rapp, their starting free safety, is hurt. So really they're left with Antoine Brooks Jr., Terrell Burgess, Nick Scott, and a guy who hasn't played in 2 years. Even if he's in the best shape of his life,
he's not in football
shape.
No.
So, how many plays is he going to be out there for? The good news is that DeAndre Hopkins is not going to play in this game, and I think that helps the Rams out a ton.
Well, I think the only thing you can say about the Weddle, you loved him when he played. He was a good, hard-hitting player and great player.
I loved him.
The thing, he plays safety. So his experience, like you said, the wind, the hitting, I don't know if he can do that. But he will bring experience to that backfield, which could help them a lot. The one thing I've noticed about Aaron Donald is not playing at the Aaron Donald game right now, which is a little concerning because they need him to be himself too.
Yeah, no, he's got to have a big game. In order for them to win, they're going to need Leonard Floyd to play. He's questionable, and they're going to need him to play, and they're going to need him to play well. So that concerns me also. And also, like you mentioned, Aaron Donald, they're going to need him to play at a MVP caliber level, which he's definitely capable of doing.
All right. Do we have a choice, a pick for the AFC side of the board going into the playoffs this week?
Who I think is going to win?
Yeah, give me one game.
Oh, just one game?
One AFC, one NFC.
Okay. AFC, I'm going to go Bengals. I'm feeling pretty strong about them. Like I said, I feel like the Raiders have, kind of felt lucky to get into the playoffs at all. And I feel like the Bengals offense is just rolling right now. Whether their defense can stop Derek Carr or not, I don't know. But I think Joe Burrow is going to be able to score enough points to win. So I'm going Bengals. And then in the NFC, I'm going to go Niners.
All right, cool. I could love that part.
I picked the Steelers last week, and what happened? They kicked a field goal to win at the end, and the Ravens limped into the offseason with 28 guys on injured reserve. Hopefully, they're able to have a team next year.
Hopefully, especially the running backs. Hopefully, they all come back healthy. But like you said, you got to put you called it. Sean Payton and Jim Harbaugh are the coaches of the year. I mean, for keeping their teams together with all the injuries, with the craziness in the NFL, with COVID and everything else. I mean, when we were kidding with you when Joe Judge first got fired, it's only half of joke to say, God, I wish the Giants could steal Sean Payton, but I think everybody would love to steal Sean Payton. And and when I was thinking about this show we were going to do tonight about the coaches, the five coaches I think in the NFL who are the best right now are, of course, Belichick, Reed. I got to put Tomlin in there, and Harbaugh and Sean Payton. Everybody after that, you can put any order you want, but I'll take those five anytime, any day, anywhere.
Yeah, I would too. And, you think about the Ravens, like we were just talking about. Yeah, they went from a number one seed to out of the playoffs in 6 weeks, and people will focus on that. But the fact is they were the number one seed with nobody on their team. I mean, Lamar Jackson was leading them in rushing. He was leading their team in passing. Mark Andrews was their leading receiver. And they still, at one point were 8-3. And that was amazing to me. The fact that they were. After that, Lamar got banged up. And once he got hurt, it was over. And it doesn't matter if you're the greatest coach in the world. When your MVP candidate is done and can't come back, there's not much you can do.
And let's also point out that they weren't playing in AFC South where you got to play the Texans and the Jag 4 games a year. No. They had Cleveland who underachieved, but still Cleveland in an underachieving year had 7 wins.
8 wins.
8 wins. And, you got Pittsburgh who made the playoffs. You got the Bengals who made the playoffs. So they played in one of the toughest divisions in football and still came into the last game of the year with nobody on the field that they thought they were going to have with a chance to make the playoffs.
Yeah, Cincinnati 10-7, Pittsburgh 9-7-1, Cleveland 8-9, Baltimore 8-9. The fact that they finished 8-9 with 27 guys on injured reserve is just phenomenal in my opinion.
Half your team is on injured reserve.
Half your team's on injured reserve. I mean, I follow sports very closely, and football is something that I pretty much watch. I mean, this is sad, but I watch every game. And there was times where I looked out there and I'm like, who the hell are these guys? Because they were playing 3rd, 4th, 5th string guys, and some dudes that they picked up off the street because their whole team was on injured reserve
and competing. Okay, now we're going to say goodnight. But the one thing, hey, I got to feel congratulations to the Georgia Bulldogs getting it done. You and I were texting all night long, and for a while it looked like, especially when the Bama went out in front, it looked like, oh God, here comes the tide. It's rolling in. And then, that defense all night long, I thought they were going to lose it at the end. I thought they were going to lose. They had nothing left, and they still had a lot of heart, a lot of soul, and they got it done.
Yeah, the defense was unbelievable. I know they make Stetson Bennett the MVP, but the MVP of that team is their defense. I mean, they were banging. They should have had a touchdown in the first quarter on that fumble, scoop, and score. That was a fumble, and that should have been 7-0 Bulldogs right then. So that was a joke, and they still ended up being able to dominate that game. And as soon as Jamison Williams went down with the injury, the game changed for Alabama because they were already down Mechie, and without Jamison Williams, and 2 of their corners, they just couldn't overcome those losses.
And that defensive line gave the Heisman Trophy winner no time. Well, Bryce was on his tailbone half the night.
Oh, they were in the backfield the entire game, and they brought blitzes. They just rushed 4 and got to him. It didn't really matter, but he didn't have much time, and at the end of the game, he didn't have anybody to throw to.
Nope. All right, people. Good night. Thanks for tuning in. Everybody get ready for the beginning of the NFL playoffs. One of my favorite months of the year, but it's also, like I said, it always comes down to this part of the year where I get a little bit, oh God, the season's over with. So a little sad at the same time. Can't wait for the action on triple Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Can't wait for it. Everybody have a good one. I'll be in touch with you over the weekend. Have a good one, my friend.
Yeah, and tune in to Man Coverage on
right.
Sunday. We've got former All-American guard from Ohio State, TJ Downing, who is now doing a show from the NFL Hall of Fame, the OG and the QB. It is a show all about the Hall of Fame and Hall of Famers, and he's going to be on our show talking ball all day Sunday morning.
All right, people, tune in, and everybody have a good weekend. I know we're going to get hit with some storms. Stay warm, stay safe, and we'll talk to you next week.
Adios.